we're not trying to compete in any way, shape, or form with the NBA. We're very complimentary. So I don't understand why they would, do some of the things that's being done behind the scenes that
Oh, they're like encouraging people to not do it?
encouraging people to not sponsor us. I mean, like,
Really?
yeah, I mean, encouraging networks not to play us.
Really?
So what you just saw right there were two different videos, but they all focus on the same subject, that being the NBA. In the first video you saw, or in the first clip, you saw Ice Cube talking about the NBA trying to sabotage his league, the Big Three. And one may wonder, where are all these pro blackety black, loud, BLM outspoken NBA players at? Well, again, this just highlights once again that BLM bullshit was approved nonsense that these own Negroes were allowed to say in the NBA because it pushes an ideological agenda that the liberal elites co-sign. And then in the second video, speaking of liberal agendas, was two teammates who are currently in the NBA by the name of Jalen Green and Josh Christopher dry humping each other. Well, you had Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green was the guy humping Josh Christopher. And you saw and you heard how into it he was. I mean, he was very vocal, screaming out, like a bitch. And you had a rap song, funny enough, talking about dick in your stomach playing while he was doing this. His legs spread wide open, his hand positioning, and then they had a friend on the bed looking at it laughing. And per usual, the tried and true liberal tactics when it comes to that situation, it's always three things. They like to deflect, downplay, and demonize. And quite frankly, before I highlight those three tactics and how they're used in this situation, it also shows why you don't have the NBA players going against the whole pride agenda the way NHL players are, which is the mostly so-called white league. But I'm always reminded a lot of those players are Russian and they don't play that nonsense. Clearly, these pro-blackity black NBA players, they do play those games. And so they're willing advocates of the bend over party and obviously participants as well. But yeah, the three tactics that, they try to downplay it with making jokes about the situation. And then they try to deflect and demonize by saying, "Oh, I'm noticing a lot of homophobic rhetoric surrounding this situation. I support these young men." You got a lot of that. And that's what typically is done because just like, women in general, liberals will never admit to any exposure, just like the cocaine in the White House situation. They use the same tactic as they always do: downplay, deflect, and demonize. And in regards, getting back to the big Ice Cube Big Three situation, this is a prime example where they would have all of the opportunity to speak on all of that pro-blackity black nonsense that they love to spout. Trying to shut down a black man's business, coming at sponsors, coming at people who would be willing to air his league. And another thing that he mentioned in that Joe Rogan interview is that certain people that used to talk about the league no longer talk about it because they got the word not to talk about it. And he brought that up. But again, where are those outspoken pro-black voices? It's because these pro-black nitwits are controlled. They're controlled by the same woke, or they're controlled by the same so-called white supremacy that they love to talk about. but they're woke and they're liberal, so it's a sort of supremacy that they adhere to and don't mind. And also, in reference to the dry humping situation, funny enough, the dude that was getting humped, he got traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. Uh, Perfect timing, I guess. I would say coincidental timing when that whole video got released. But, again, what Ice Cube highlighted and exposed in his interview and this whole gay play situation between these two NBA players is just two prime examples of why I don't pay any mind or any seriousness when it comes to any of this pro-black bullshit. I mean, because again, a lot of what they say and do are things that they are allowed to say and do. Because when they actually truly make a stand and say something truthful, well, they get isolated, they get blacklisted, something that Ice Cube is so slowly but surely experiencing for himself. Now, again, I don't believe he's been completely iced out because, he's still being allowed to work within the industry. But we will see a true icing out if you no longer see Ice Cube in mainstream movies. And right now, when I check on his IMDb, he has 6 projects in production. A sequel to Ride Along, something called War of the Worlds. Oh, he is in that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, Mutant Mayhem, which is coming out during the summer. But again, you could say maybe he was working on that before he got officially isolated, but true evidence that he's been blackballed is when he's no longer allowed to be a part of Hollywood productions. So that hasn't happened yet. But if he actually starts to say some names and not play coy, kind of like what Kanye did, he actually showed names, named people, which is something that you don't get from these so-called vocal pro-blackity blacks. Usually they just generalize and just say white people, which again doesn't mean a goddamn thing. and again, it's something that's promoted and supported. But if he actually starts calling out names and being more specific, then you'll see him truly get isolated. But for right now, that's not the case. But at the very least, he has exposed to a broader audience something that anybody that's been paying attention already realize. The fact that these NBA players and all of their outspokenness when it comes to race relations, it's all bullshit that's allowed by white supremacy, as they like to put it.